Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today, we're going to look at the most ridiculous testimony in a trial since Alex Murdaugh. So come join me down at the beach. Let's talk about this. Liar Liar was a interesting, funny movie about a lawyer who was a pathologic liar. And he wound up developing a condition where, he could only tell the truth. And as a result, it got him into all kinds of funny situations. But the fact of the matter is, a lawyer who lies is not funny. And this is a situation, this particular case is it is an absolute poster child for why lawyer regulation begins with making certain that lawyers keep track of funds that are given to them and pay them out to clients, because that's what initially started this whole ball rolling. This is a story of Richard Merritt, who is or was an attorney in the Atlanta area, and he got into trouble because he defrauded a number of elderly clients over of about $500,000. As a result of having defrauded his clients of this $500,000 sum, Mr. Merritt was charged with theft, he was charged with exploitation of the elderly, and he was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The actual sentence was 30 years, but if you're a good boy, we'll let you out in 15. And apparently the idea of spending 15 years with people just like him bothered him, and he had a different plan. Now, the state alleges, and I believe they have proved, that he murdered his mother. And basically what happened is, on the day that he was supposed to turn himself in to the state of Georgia and surrender to begin his prison sentence, he ate lunch with his mom and then pushed her down the basement stairs and killed her, stabbed her with a kitchen knife, hit her over the head with a barbell. That's what the state has alleged. I believe that is what the state has proved. But now we come to him taking the stand in his own defense. And I know you probably heard me say this in the Murdaugh case, but you never take the stand in your own defense unless you have a self-defense claim. And then you pretty much have to take the stand, because if you don't, there's no way to establish that you were in fear of your life and that sort of thing. But in the context of a case like this, where you're being charged with a murder, you absolutely positively never take the stand. But this is another one of those situations where he had to take the stand because he had to come up with a credible alternate explanation for how his mother got murdered. And he did come up with an alternate explanation, but I'll let you decide whether or not it is credible. I don't believe so. But before we get into that, let's take a look at what happens normally in a trial. Normally in a trial, your lawyer asks you a series of questions which you answer and lay out your defense. And it goes something like this. Good morning. How are you this morning? I'm fine. And Mr. Jones, can you tell me what you did on the morning of January 15th? Well, I got up, I got dressed, and I went down to the coffee shop to eat breakfast. Okay. What coffee shop did you go to? Well, I went to the, Starbucks, just a few blocks down from my house. Okay. You went to Starbucks. What did you have at Starbucks? Well, I had a latte. The reason that you keep asking questions is because if you don't keep asking questions and you just allow the person to narrate, they will inevitably stray into data that is inadmissible. And watch what happens in this first segment where he is testifying and that exact thing happens here.
Now, within a day or so, what happened to your mother?
Well, actually, it started the night that she received the cartoon. I got back and she was upset. She started feeling dizzy, having difficulty breathing, having chest pain. And she just was very concerned about the cartoon, about the effect on Janine and the kids. And I should add that Janine felt as if, well, she didn't feel, she was quite adamant that she was keeping my son Jack home from school the next day and she wasn't going to go to work. And she had called somebody at the Cobb County DA's office or sheriff's office, and I'm not sure which, to inform them of it. And my mother was concerned that they weren't going to do anything, and in fact, they didn't. So there was definitely concern on both sides. My mother had these symptoms. She decided that she needed to go to the ER. Well, I had the ankle monitor on, and the curfew had been moved back to midnight because I had started a job at Petco warehouse up in Gwinnett County. And in order to make my hours, I had to be able to get the curfew moved back, which my pretrial officer, basically my probation officer, was happy to do because they want you to have a job. So long story short, I wasn't still going to be able to drive her because my mother really didn't make the decision to go to the hospital until probably 10:30, 11 that night. There's no way I could take her there, drop her off, and get back and not be in violation of my monitor. So she was able to drive herself. They admitted her, and I think she was admitted at early morning hours of the 15th, and she was discharged sometimes on the 16th.
Now, after she was discharged, did your mom still have concerns?
It was all we talked about. She got back home that Wednesday when I first encountered her. I remember distinctly sitting at the kitchen table. We were a kitchen table family, so discussions were had at the kitchen table or around the kitchen counter, around the island where the sink was. So we talked about it. And back a few days earlier on Monday, I had taken a picture of the cartoon on my phone and sent it to my lawyer, David Willingham. So he was aware. And if I'm not mistaken, he received a copy as well as something else.
That's speculative, hearsay. I don't know that he has personal knowledge of it.
And Mr. Queen, this is turning into a lot of narrative. So you need to either ask some specific questions or instruct your client to confine his answers to the questions that are asked. So I'll sustain the objection.
So the prosecution objects because he's narrating. The judge holds him to it and says, don't narrate, answer the questions. She winds up giving him that instruction again later on.
Now, your wife testified regarding the night before you returned something.
Yes.
And she mentioned that you went to the Starbucks. Did you meet her at the Starbucks?
Yes. My son Jack expressly wanted me to pick him up at his school in Buckhead that Wednesday and Thursday to try to get as much time together as we could. And I certainly complied with that and wanted to spend time with him. That Thursday, we went for an early dinner. I took him to the Longhorn Steakhouse in Kennesaw up at Barrett Parkway. We finished kind of early. We walked around the REI sporting goods store because we both enjoyed outdoor things together.
Jack, these have become very, very non-responsive. I just ask that he answer the question and not go beyond that.
Mr. Merritt, you need to confine your responses to the questions that are asked. If you don't understand the question, ask that it be clarified.
Yes, Your Honor.
Finally, he gets into what happened to cause his mother's death. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Let's watch a little bit of that.
So did she start preparations for lunch?
Yes, she did.
And then what happened?
It was, the plan was we were going to eat around 1 o'clock so that we could be on the road by 2, no later than 2:30. It was, I believe, Super Bowl weekend, Friday afternoon traffic, a bunch of stuff going on in Atlanta. And, obviously we don't want to be late to the jail, given the importance of me being on time. I was walking from the kitchen. I had just left the kitchen from keeping her company while she was making the spaghetti when I heard a very loud knock at the front door, We weren't expecting any visitors. So I went to the front door and I opened it. And there were two individuals there, two men, and they both were pointing pistols at me. And they told me to let them in.
So what'd you do?
I let them in. I had never seen these guys before, and they were pointing pistols at me, so I let them in. I let them in, they shut the door. About this time, my mother came to the foyer where I was standing with these two individuals, and they said, head to the basement and don't say an effing word.
So did you go to the basement?
The taller of the individuals, he was older, probably in his 50s, about 6 feet, athletically built, walked past me, put the gun at my mother's lower back, and she started to head towards the stairway to the basement. The fact they said head to the basement led me to think they knew we had a basement and had cased the house before. The younger of the men, he's probably about 5'8", 5'9", shoulder-length brown hair, pudgy. He put his gun on my back and we followed them. She opened the stair door to the basement, flicked on the light. It was a two-step process to get down those stairs. You had 4 or 5 steps that went down, there's a landing, and then you make the turn and there's the longer flight of stairs. They proceeded first. My mother was crying. She was making sounds like she might be wanting to scream or shout. And as they made the turn on the landing and took those first few steps, by this point, I and the guy behind me who had the gun on my back made it to the landing. He told her to shut the F up and pushed her down the stairs.
And then what happened to your mother?
It was the worst sound I've ever heard in my life. She plunged headlong into the wall. It's a sound I can hear to this day as I'm sitting here. And I could tell that there was a dent or a hole in the wall. She was trying to get up and move around, but from my vantage point, she appeared like she couldn't get her balance.
Was your mother injured at that time?
She certainly appeared to be. And as I moved like I was going to try to go down the stairs, the guy dug the pistol into my back and grabbed my shoulder. The gentleman who pushed her down the stairs put his pistol behind his back into the back part of his jeans. He ran down the stairs, turned the corner, and came back with the 35-pound weight that has been seen during the course of this trial.
And where did the knife come from?
Well, the knife came later. This monster took this dumbbell and proceeded to bludgeon my mother right in front of me. And she stopped moving at this point. He then told the man who had his pistol in my back to bring me down to the bottom of the stairs. They shoved me over to the tile where the dumbbell rested. And then the older guy took off up the stairs. He came back a few minutes later with the kitchen knife and proceeded to stab my mother repeatedly in front of me. I cannot believe what I was seeing. I didn't understand what would be the purpose because she wasn't moving.
Okay, that's about all of the nonsense I can stand there. So, to summarize, 2 men he did not know took his mother and took him at gunpoint and his mother to the basement stairs. They pushed his mother down the stairs. They killed her. And then, because she made a lot of noise when she was being killed, these 2 men who had guns got scared and left. But before they left, they told him, no matter what else happens, don't tell anybody or we'll come get your family. I've heard a lot of fairly credible alternate explanations for what's happened in the course of a trial. I thought if Alex Murdaugh had just kept his mouth shut, he might have been able to skate. But this is just an awful, awful tale because there are so many logical holes in it. Watch what the prosecutor does to this tale.
Mr. Merritt, what you said happened in front of your eyes on February 1st, 2019 must have been horrifying for you.
It was.
You said that it shook you up.
Absolutely.
You were afraid for your own life?
I was so traumatized by what happened to my mother, I really wasn't worried about myself at that point.
Okay, but you were concerned for your wife and your daughter and your son.
Yes.
And you were so scared that you got out of there as fast as you could. Right?
I did.
Okay. Made the decision not to turn yourself into the Cobb County Jail, right?
Correct.
And instead, you cut your ankle monitor off.
Yes.
But before you even did that, you made some stops along the way. You stopped at a Kroger on. You stopped at a Kroger first, correct?
No, I didn't actually stop there.
Okay, but you stopped in the parking lot and you drove around the parking lot in the Kroger, right?
Correct, I did.
Okay, because you didn't need gas at that point because your mom's car was full enough to get you out of there. That's what you testified to, correct?
To get me most of the way there, yes.
Okay, and then you stopped at a QT in Norcross and we saw the video of that. Do you recall?
I did.
Okay, and you were there for how long? Do you remember?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, did you feel that you were being chased at that point?
At that point, no, I did not.
Okay, did you feel like your life was in danger at that point?
I didn't know, honestly.
Okay, so you bought waters and a candy bar.
Yes.
Okay, and then you drove around 285 West and you took the 75 North exit, right?
Correct.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but your wife's practice is over in Vinings, kind of on West Paces Ferry and Paces Mill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you passed that exit when you got onto 75 North.
Correct.
And you did not stop to tell your wife that you had just watched your mother being killed and her life was in danger. Correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. And your son's school, Lovett, is just down the street from that. It's on West Paces Ferry. Is that right?
Yes.
And you did not make any efforts to take that exit, which is the exit before the exit to your wife's veterinarian clinic, to pick up your son from school or alert anyone that his life was in danger.
My son, I believe, was with his grandfather that day. He wasn't at school.
Okay, but you never made any phone calls to your wife? Correct?
No, I did not.
You never called Jack's school, right?
No, I did not.
You never called Mia's school, right?
No, I did not.
And so Jack was with Sal, that's your previous father-in-law. Did you ever call Sal Minicozzi to let him know that you had seen this horrible event and that he and your entire family were in danger?
I didn't call any of them because the killers told me don't say a word to anyone, so I took them at their word based on what they did.
Well, I think she makes it pretty clear that she doesn't believe him, and she does this thing where she asks him a series of questions.
The name you used was Mick Malvo. Where did that name come from?
The alias that I used was from New Orleans. It was a Cajun-sounding name. That's why I picked it.
All right, and you made this driver's license, State's Exhibit 82, yourself, right?
Yeah, I got the template online, yes.
Okay, and you actually had the sleeves that you put driver's licenses in, or at least the kind that you put this in your car when it was collected, right?
I printed it off and believe the business card, plastic laminates, that's what I got.
All right, and even the birth date on this is incorrect. But you put those stickers on your mother's car as part of this persona of Mick Malvo.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that was part of the deception, is that right?
I would call it protection.
All right, and you also put a stolen license plate on your mom's car.
This is true, I did.
All right, so that was part of the lie as well, because you didn't want to be found by these monsters.
Absolutely right.
And you said that you were staying with cousins in Nashville, correct?
I believe that is something I said, yes.
But that's not true either. Is it?
No, it wasn't true.
You didn't have any cousins or family in Nashville?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, and so you didn't really have a place to stay in Nashville?
Not at first, no.
Okay, until you met Kelly.
Correct.
So you were using her for a place to live. Is that right?
I wouldn't go that far, no.
And so you would take their money from the insurance company and keep it as your own, right?
Well, it would be put back into the firm for the most part, but yes.
Okay. And you also promised to put some money in your escrow account for certain clients, right?
Yes.
And again, you didn't put any of that money in an escrow account.
Pled to all of this in January of 2018.
Okay. And you did this because the firm was in trouble.
It was, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely in trouble.
So is it fair to say, Mr. Merritt, that when you're in trouble, you lie to try to get out of it?
I don't believe that's fair to say at all.
You did A, you did B, you did C, you did D. Doesn't that establish that you're a liar? Well, no, I don't think so. Well, of course you don't think so, because you are a liar and you have to cover it up. Anyone else who was following along and playing from the same sheet of music would know, hey, you are lying your socks off, dude. So I think she did a really fine job on cross-examination, and she did something that a lot of people just can't help themselves not to do. A lot of people just keep going and keep going and keep going, and they beat that horse, and not only until it's a dead horse, but till the thing's darn near decomposed. She did a surgical cross-examination, she showed him to be a liar, and she stopped. It will be really interesting to follow the closing arguments in this. I will follow the closing arguments, and I will do my best to bring to you my analysis of the closing arguments once they come out. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have the opportunity today, take a moment to be kind to someone. Maybe tell them that you like the outfit they're wearing. Maybe let them out in traffic at the stoplight. Maybe if it's someone that you're really close to, you pull them close to you and tell them exactly how important they are to you in your life. And if it's a child, make sure you tell them how proud you are of them. Those things resonate with children, and they are remembered even years later. So thank you again for watching. I hope you have a marvelous day today, and catch me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.